Hey everybody, it's Robert with the Secret Wine Society, where it's our job to bring you everything strange, wonderful, and amazing from the world of wine. Today I've got something I think is pretty amazing. Technically not a wine, this is a sake. This is called Shichi Hon Yari. That translates as the Seven Spearsmen. And these guys are famous in Japanese culture. So this battle that was fought outside of where this present day brewery is, this was in 1583. These guys were the bodyguards of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and they were decisive in this battle. So they're very famous in Japanese culture. If you study the history, you'll hear about these guys. So this is a Junmai sake. So you can think of the word Junmai as being like the German purity law. So what it's saying is they're not using any extraneous ingredients that aren't necessary for the brewing process. So again, the brewing process that this undergoes, being from a grain, rice, it's similar in some ways to beer, but it's also in some ways similar to wine. So you can think of it as a hybrid process. So at any rate, let's go to the back. They give you a little bit of information here. Come up, camera. So they give you a little bit of information here, like what I just said about the battle, which is nice. And they're telling you here that they're using this rice called tamazekaya. So this is basically, a lot of times you'll see Yamada Nishiki, and this is the most commonly used rice for sake. But you're starting to see more and more of these companies using heritage rice because you can get some really interesting flavors that you don't necessarily get out of Yamada Nishiki, and it depends on the flavor profile that you're shooting for. So it also says here, now this one has been refined down to 60%. So that term for that in Japanese is seimai buai. So what they're telling you is the 60% ratio they're talking about, that's the percentage of the grain of the rice that's remaining after they mill it. So basically you're trying to mill away some of the components of the rice or parts of the rice kernel that are going to contribute to off flavor. So you don't just throw the whole rice kernel in there. You polish away the proteins, fats, and all these things that are going to contribute to some strange flavors, right? So you want to get the kernel down to just the center core of the carbohydrate. So at any rate, this is telling you that's a pretty good sake because the more you mill down, it's going to be a little more expensive, right? Because you're getting rid of a lot of the rice. You're not using it in the process. Now, they do use it for confections and other stuff, so they sell it, but still, it's more expensive to do it this way. So basically, to sum it up, you've got a Junmai, so they're not adding stuff that they don't need to have. They're not adding alcohol to it or anything else to monkey with it. They're using a heritage rice, which is interesting. And they're milling it down to a level of a ginjo. So ginjo is going to be milled down to 60 at least. This is 60. They're not calling it a ginjo. So probably it's either for marketing purposes or there's other elements that go into making a ginjo that they did not follow. So it's not going to be on the label. But at any rate, the rice polishing ratio is similar to a ginjo. So anyway, this is really nice because I like the flavor profile on this one. It matches so many foods. So let's get into the tasting. And just before we do that, I'm going to show you this. This is my personal sake set. I don't expect everyone to have one exactly like this. My wife almost killed me when I bought this in Japan, but this is a really nice set. So their pottery over there is amazing. If you guys study that at all, or it's just... Anyway, so this is called a tokuri, right? So the tokuri is the vessel that you drink it out of. So not you drink it out of, but holds the sake, then you pour it into these vessels that you drink out of. This is called a guinomi because it's a little bit larger. Now, if you get a little bit smaller one, they call it an ochoko. So you have your tokuri, or your sake vessel, and then you have your guinomi, which I like the larger size. It just makes it a little easier, plus I like larger portions. And if you're not too much of a kind of a loner or hermit, obviously you like to drink with other people, you should at least need one more of these. So your sake set should look like this. Now that being said, this is traditional, and this is a lovely set and one of my prized possessions, but you don't have to have one of these to drink sake out of. As a matter of fact, some of these sakes that are really, really high end, you're not going to get all the aromatics out of something like this, right? Although I will say this, that the way it hits your palate makes it feel fuller. So there is a benefit to drinking out of this. Besides the fact that it's, traditional and a lot of fun, you do get a better sense, of just the impact on the palate makes this stuff fill out a little more. It's hard to describe, you need to try it both ways. But for the aromatics, you would use this. So you can go both ways. If you don't have the sake set, that's not a problem. Start with this. It's actually going to be better for most of the sakes that you're going to find in this shop, because we carry a lot of high-end stuff. But if you want to do this, you could bring in a set. We're probably going to end up having these for sale. I'll get some nice ones imported from Japan, and we'll definitely let you guys know when those come in. Right now we can't get into the country, so we'll see. That might be a while. At any rate, we'll put this aside. I'm going to use a wine glass because I want you guys to see the color, and I'm going to really talk about the aromatics of this one. So I'm going to set this aside. I love the wooden box. And it even says Tokudi on it right there. So at any rate, that's a lot of fun. I love that set. So we're going to do this. Now, the one thing about sake that I like, you don't have to finish the whole bottle. Once you open it, you can leave it in your refrigerator for weeks and months. It doesn't degrade quickly like a bottle of wine might be bad in 2 or 3 days, or start to smell funny, or just not, it's not going to have those snappy aromatics that it had when you first opened the bottle. But this, you can enjoy some with your friends or whatever, with food, dinner, and then you can cap it and put it back in the refrigerator and enjoy it over the next few days or weeks, which is kind of cool. Sometimes you don't want to drink the whole bottle, or you don't want to drink the same thing over and over again. Now, typically, sake can be a little bit heavier or higher in alcohol. This one is, it's going to tell us somewhere, 15. And that's going to be pretty low for a sake. You know, the 15 is probably, 14, 15 is probably the lowest you're going to see. And they can go up to 20 or so. You gotta be careful. So usually it's a 4-ounce pour or less. You know, this is probably about 4, just shy. Sometimes I would give a little less than that. But you know, you got the same thing with the appreciation of the color. This has a nice like platinum straw color to it. And then one thing about serving temperature is this particular sake I would not have too cold. You want it chilled, and it'll tell you that on the label. They don't always tell you that information. We will be able to provide that here. So if you're buying sake from us, we've researched everything. We've tried it at every temperature possible. And so we'll be able to tell you what to have it with, what kind of food, and what temperature, and the best way to enjoy it. And if you're really smart, you'll buy some of our wine glasses, because these things rock. So anyway, we're going to do the aromatics just like you would a wine. You can spin it a little bit. That doesn't matter quite as much for this, but it's not so much I'm trying to get the aromatics by splashing it around as much as I'm trying to get some on the side of the glass, right? So now, the first thing you notice is this really cool, sweet, savory, nutty nose. It's really, really cool. And I had this at, well, I don't want to name names, but Lily, your cooking is amazing. We had this with her risotto, and it was absolutely outstanding combination, almost by accident. I'm like, okay, let's try this one. First time I ever had it, and it's amazing pairing. So let's try this again. Okay, so you're getting some of the aromatics that you would get in a ginjo. So you're getting some of the citrus and melon in there, which is really neat because you've got this savory aspect, and it's probably coming from the rice. I'll ask Marcus from Young's, who'll give us, and if you're watching this, Marcus, you can fill us in when you come down and do the tasting. But you are getting some of the elements of a ginjo, where you get the really pure melon and citrus and really high-toned pure notes like that. But I think it's the rice or whatever process these guys are using, that savory, nutty note is, well, those notes are also in there. So this thing could really pair with a whole broad range of different foods. I could see this thing as being the perfect wine to take if you don't know what somebody's having, and you're invited to dinner and you have no idea what to take. If you take this, it's going to go with probably anything that they could offer you, even pizza. I mean, this would be just amazing. So at any rate, let's make sure we have our little guy here. Let's try this. Now, I think this one is best as slightly chilled. I wouldn't put, you don't want this cold like a white wine. I would maybe, I don't know, 60, 58, somewhere in there. but let's try it. Oh boy. That's killer. So you'll notice if you see me doing the wines, I'm swishing them around like this. Sake is not like that because part of the pleasure of sake is the texture. If you guys haven't had a good sake, you need to come in and try one because it's like liquid satin. It's different. It's even not like a full-bodied white. You get this really nice, like luxurious mouthfeel. And you don't want to ruin it by trying to aerate it too much. It doesn't really work. You want to just roll it back and forth. But this would be killer with food. So you're getting those nuts, that whole savory, almost like a nice like mushroom soup broth or something. That is amazing. Now, if I were to actually drink some out of this, I'm just gonna do this little experiment right in front of you guys. So, you can see you don't have the same shape to trap the aromatics like this has, right? So, I mean, this glass is amazing. If you don't have a pair of these, you need to get some. This is a specific brand, and just buy it. Just do it. You'll enjoy your wine more. So this, obviously, the thicker lip here compared to this. You know, the thicker lip matches the just that luxurious texture of the sake better than this. Now this is better if you've got a wine, but with this, itadakimasu, kanpai. So you still get a little bit of the aromatics, but it's not nearly as much. But it's so much better. The attack on the palate is completely different. Now, if somebody wants to make a lot of money, they figure out how to combine these two things to have the aromatics trapped in with the same attack on the palate that this offers. You'll make millions of dollars. I'll be your first customer. I don't know what else to say. This is an amazing sake. It's one of my personal favorites. This is something that I think goes with a lot of different foods. Like I said, we had it with risotto and chicken. It was incredible. I could imagine it would go with so many other things. This would be a guaranteed hit wherever you take it. It's not too hot on the back end because it's only 15% alcohol. It's savory, it's got a little bit of fruit in there. It's the perfect midweek sake. So I'm gonna finish this off camera because I don't wanna waste it. My wife will kill me. And so yeah, I'll finish this up and you guys need to come in and try it. Last thing, this is actually on glass pour. You don't have to buy the whole bottle. I have 300 ml bottles of this. I think one left, but I'll get more. So you could take that, you could get a large bottle, or you could get a glass. So anyway, try this next time you're in the shop. Ask for Shichi Hon Yari. Peace out, everybody. Love you all. We'll see you soon in the shop. Okay, bye.